So I hear you guys like tool bag tours. Well, here's a simple, lightweight set of basic tools that started off as something that I would take when I go to somebody else's place to help them out with stuff. But it's also handy to use around the house for simple stuff like hanging things on the wall, assembling furniture, also changing out light fixtures, switches, changing out a garbage disposal. And we're going to start off with the most important question: how much does it weigh? Just under 12 pounds. So the tool bag itself is a Bucket Boss 12-inch tool bag. We'll talk more about the bag later, but let's dive right into the tools. So, of course, you start off with your basic 61 screwdriver. This is a cheap Stanley from Home Depot, but it's got a decent handle on it, decent grip, decent comfort level, and most importantly, it's got a nice high-vis handle that I can easily spot. This one here is actually primarily because it gives me the 1/4 inch and 5/16 hollow shaft nut drivers. The fact that it has all these other tips is just for convenience, but I have other screwdrivers in here. Next up, we got your basics, the cheap mechanical pencil. Also, my favorite, cheap flashlight from Walmart. This is a pen light, and it costs all of $2. For $2, it's a single mode light. It's bright enough. It's like 25 lumens. It's got a cheap LED, no big deal in here, but unlike every other cheap light, it uses only 2 AAA batteries. So it's a lot slimmer to fit in a pocket. It's not stupid fat like all these other cheap lights that you buy that run on 3 batteries. And yes, there's a technical reason why cheap lights use 3 batteries, but batteries usually sold in packs of 4 or 8 or 16, and none of those numbers are divisible by 3. So I much prefer a light that uses 1 or 2 batteries. Next up, we got a cheapy non-contact voltage detector from Harbor Freight. The ergonomics on these are not very good. Like, you have to hold down the button to actually get it work, but it works. So mostly for making sure something's off when you think it's off. And here's my favorite cheap knife from Walmart. It's really lightweight. It's so lightweight you'd think it's a toy. It's like a plasticky toy, but no, it's actually made out of aluminum. It has your standard 3-position retractable blade. My only complaint about it really is that I wish it wasn't black. So I gave it this fancy high-tech tracking tag just to make sure I can spot it when I need it. Here we got your 6-inch long nose pliers. I had these for a while, probably more than 10 years now. And these are actually a high leverage design, so they cut and grip pretty well for their size. They also got a nice slim jaws that you can fit into a bunch of tight spots. Going around, you also got your standard 6-inch cutters. I also bought these along with the pliers, so had these for a while. These are also a high leverage design, and they also cut what they need to cut for this size. They work pretty well. All right, here we got the 8-inch Irwin groove lock pliers. These are basically a Nipix Cobra clone without the Nipix Cobra price tag. Now, of course, these jaws are probably not going to hold up as well as the Cobras, but I'm not using these to take off rusty bolts. These are mostly for, plumbing fittings or hose fittings, or sometimes you just need a wide set of jaws to like grab and hold something or squeeze down on it. So this form factor works pretty well. The adjustment and the angle. And for their size, these are actually pretty light and not expensive. And here's a cheap Husky 6-inch adjustable wrench. It's actually, it's got your typical jiggle like any other cheap wrench, but it's got one more groove on the adjustment screw here, so it actually doesn't back off quite as much as your other cheap wrenches. And I specifically picked out this one because it had nice pointy tips, so it can reach down to some tight spots. And here's a cheap set of Pittsburgh Lineman's pliers that are actually surprisingly decent. Like, you can actually cut 14-2 Romex with these without a struggle. And of course, going around, here's a 12-foot Husky tape measure. This one is nice because it's got a wide blade. I mean, I can extend this to, well, let's see. So we're at 5 feet, still holding. 6 feet, still holding. So it's got a decent reach, and I also like the high visibility white background with black lettering. So I like this. Also, I think the color is pretty cool, you know, black, white, and red. So here's an inside. There's still some room in the bag. We'll start off with these. Probably the best $2 screwdrivers you can buy anywhere. These are Pittsburgh from Harbor Freight. They got nice, big, comfortable handles. You can get a really good grip on these. You can even put one in a handle like this if you really want to crank down on something. And the tips actually grip the screw better than a lot of the other cheap screwdrivers that I tried. So these are actually not bad. Right here we got a cheapy Harbor Freight level. Again, my favorite part is that it's bright orange, and for most simple jobs it's long enough. Here's two cheapy Harbor Freight picks. This is a hook pick, and this is a pokey pick. Mostly use it to poke a hole, like say before you drill some like into wood or drywall, so the drill bit doesn't wander off center. But it's also nice, like you can use it to mark something through a hole where a pencil wouldn't fit. So this is a surprisingly useful tool, and this one's nice because you can grab and pull small stuff that you can't reach with anything else. And here's a sheath I made for this from heat shrink tubing. Here is Johnson Johnny Square. It's a small one, and it comes surprisingly useful even for simple things like hanging pictures. Like if you're attaching the anchors to the actual picture frame, it's nice to be able to like run a line parallel to an edge or perpendicular to an edge, just to make sure everything is laid out evenly. And this actually works out pretty well. Or just, you know, run a straight line somewhere. It's lightweight aluminum, and it even has this part here where you can write notes. So, I mean, that alone is enough reason to buy this. That's pretty cool. So, and of course you can erase them. So built-in notepad. I like it. And here is a center punch. This is an old Craftsman one. I had this for a while. You can see I've actually had to file down the edges here because it started to mushroom out. But this is mostly useful for punching things out, like for example, door hinge pins. Here is, well, I guess I should have probably started with this part. My favorite power tool from Walmart. This is a $20 drill. Comes with the drill and battery and a slow charger I keep in the bag. And I mean, it just does everything that I need a cheap drill to do. Like most of the time I'm drilling holes that are, you know, less than 3/8 of an inch wide, and driving fasteners that are mostly, you know, less than 1.5 inches long. And this handles those jobs without a sweat. So it's got a single speed, you know, brushed motor. But my favorite part is that other than it costs $20, so it's got the same form factor as a Milwaukee M12. So it's got your 12-volt battery, just pops in the handle, and there's nothing sticking out. So it's a compact, lightweight drill for $20. That's great. It just does everything that I want a cheap drill to do. Along with that, I have bits. So here's a cheap bit set I basically assembled from several other Walmart bit sets. It's got your standard, you know, your Phillips, flat, hex, Torx, square. There's some drill bits. These are beta drill bits from Walmart, and they work okay for drilling wood or plastic or drywall. So I wouldn't drill metal with these, but that's not what this tool is for. And here's some sockets that came with this cheap Husky ratchet. So it's a bit ratchet, so I can put any of these bits in here, but also has a 1/4" drive here, and it's flex head. Surprisingly useful for getting to tight spaces, and there's some sockets that came with the ratchet, so 5/16, 3/8, and 7/16. And next up we got a magnetic stud finder. Hang something on the wall, good to have. And here's a cheap rechargeable work light from Walmart. It's actually got several modes on it. So the end light comes out. It's also got the light right here, a brighter light, and the light on this end. So, and it's magnetic on the end, so it's pretty handy. Just stick it somewhere and aim it where you need it for extra light. Let's turn this around. We got this cheap Stanley screwdriver. I bought this a while ago. Actually, it was an Amazon add-on item. It was like $5 for me to get free shipping, and it works surprisingly well. It's got a ratcheting feature, and the ratcheting is surprisingly smooth for a cheap screwdriver like this. Like, I tried a Klein stubby, and the ratchet mechanism had such high back drag, I just got rid of it because I cannot stand ratchets that have high back drag. But this one actually works pretty nice. So I put some Milwaukee impact bits here just so I don't rely completely on cheap Walmart bits. So you got Phillips 2, and there's some other bits that I find mostly useful, large and small flat. T20, T15, 5/32 hex, #1 Phillips. So these are the bits that I find I need most often. But I mean, the idea is I can also use any of these bits either in the ratchet or in the stubby screwdriver. And here we got small precision screwdrivers. These are cheapies from Walmart, but I mean they work. This one also used mostly as a precision pry bar. Here is a spare old wire stripper that I had. Realistically, if I'm going to doing anything electrical, I'm probably going to be using a different set of tools in a different bag, but since I already had this, I threw it in here. If I'm doing a small job and need to strip some wire or crimp some wire, it's good to have one of these. Of course, here's a cheap putty knife from Walmart, and this one's surprisingly good because it's got a full tang design all the way through, so the handle's just bolted onto the sides, and it's even taken some beating with a hammer on the tip on the handle here, and it's been holding up. And here's just some zip ties. Always need those. Here is a second voltage detector. So this is a contact voltage detector. These are space you can stick at an outlet to check if you have voltage going through it, or you can disconnect it and check something else. So I didn't put any multimeters in here because if I need a multimeter, I want to use a different set of tools and a different bag. So I specifically chose to limit myself to just the basics. And this is just another way of checking that something's off when you think it is. Here is folding sets of hex keys. These are Eklund brand. They're compact, lightweight, metric, and standard. I actually replaced these screws here holding it together just so they're slimmer, because they originally had these thicker nuts and bolts holding it together, and when you're, say, mounting a set screw up against a wall on like a towel bar, it just gets in the way and you start scratching the wall. So this works a lot better. These are actually, I got these from McMaster Car, and let me show you the part number for these in case you want to do the same thing. So this is the part number you want from McMaster Car. It comes with as a set with this side and this side. It's called barrel and screw. So combination truss head, barrel and screw. And no joke, 4 of these with shipping cost probably more than both of these hex key sets put together. But if you want the smallest, most compact folding set of hex keys, this is probably the way to go. This just makes it more useful for its intended purpose. Here's a small compact magnetic tray. I have one of these in pretty much every tool bag that I use. It's just really handy When you take something apart, just throw all your screws in here so nothing gets lost. And it comes with a handy built-in screwdriver magnetizer as well. Here's a wet wipe in case you're dealing with wet, nasty stuff. Here is my favorite set of light-duty work gloves. I actually found these as a 3-pair set lying at the bottom of a shelf at the Dollar Tree. And I don't know if Dollar Tree actually sells these because I haven't seen any hanging on the shelf. They were just lying in the bottom. Maybe somebody dropped it and left them there. But since then, they have become a favorite light-duty work gloves because they got a vented back, so your hands don't get all wet immediately. They got enough nitrile coating that you can touch some wet, nasty stuff and don't get it immediately all over your hands. And they're thin, so you have pretty good dexterity handling small stuff. And they got a nice high-vis color, so I like that. All right, here is a set of extra hardware I put together, which basically wall anchors, some toothpicks if you deal with stripped out screws, and screws, washers, picture hanging hooks. So if I'm using this set in my house, I'm gonna go get the actual hardware that I need. But when I'm at somebody else's place, it's good to have some extra hardware. And here is a Stanley 10-ounce claw hammer. I didn't want a full-size 16-ounce one in the interest of keeping it lightweight. And this 10-ounce usually does what I need. Like, I'm not building a house here or remodeling a house. For the simple jobs, it's plenty enough. Here we have the slow charger for the Walmart drill. The only reason it's in here so I can always find it where it is. Otherwise, it takes like 5 to 6 hours to fully charge a battery, so you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't be using this in the middle of a job. Let's see, that's pretty much all except this rag on the bottom. So sometimes it's nice to have a rag. Usually don't need it, so that's why it's all the way in the bottom. And here's a extra zip tie that I was trying to hide the bottom of the bag. So that's pretty much all. Let's talk about the bag. So the 12-inch size, this is pretty much the limit as it is, all the tools that are showed, where you can store in an organized manner. Pretty much use all the pocket space available. The pockets are okay. I wish they were a little bit more, roomy, like that way, so you can put more things in here or bigger things. But they're okay. These have pretty decent room, the interior pockets, except these. Like, these are actually pockets. And they're so tight that you can't really put much in there except like really small, thin stuff. I also wish that I had some pockets on the ends, like either inside or outside, because right now it's basically wasted space. My favorite part about the bag is that, well, it's not expensive. It's like 20 bucks, and it's a double-walled bag. So you can see there's no shiny, plasticky coating that you find in a lot of the cheap bags, because I find that usually over time that plasticky coating always starts to flake off and the bag just starts to disintegrate. So I avoid buying any bags that have that plasticky coating on the inside, and this is one of the cheapest ones that I found that have this nice dual layer construction. Also, has the straps running all the way on the bottom. The bottom's a little bit reinforced. So for a $20 bag, this one's actually pretty good. So I had this bag about 6 months now and use it occasionally, and I mean, it's been working out pretty well for me. So that's all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.